here we are. So with regards to gold, overall a good day. Push up, perfectly fine. No push down. Overall, gold didn't even bother making the bottom wick. It just kept rolling up, which is fine. It does that sometimes. And at the same time, barely creating a top wick, right? Does that mean that we have an upcoming push down? Well, we do, right? 30-minute giving us that divergence right there. So before we dive into what's happening right now, let me quickly pull June 14th, 11:30. So too many black backgrounds. Here we go. June 14th, 11:30. So we have a long time ahead before news to make a lot of moves. Now look at this. How much is PPI going to do? This is it, right? So today, all PPI is going to do is, looking at this, just give a short move. Now, previous data, so PPI was negative, higher than forecast. So basically, PPI, we are measuring price changes, right? Across goods. Now that is how we're tracking that also across to inflation, understanding where the price of products or price of goods kind of stands. Now we've seen it go down to minus 0.3%, with it being 0.2% to 0.3%, a substantial drop. Okay. Now, we also had FOMC and Fed interest rate, so probably not the best one to look at. Let's go further back. May 11, 11:30. May 11, 11:30. Right there. So this is the kind of day we're looking at, right? Price going bullish, expecting a drop. 41 pip PPI, not really doing much, right? Now we also have unemployment claims, I believe. No, initial jobless claims, yeah. So jobless claims this past week was good for the dollar. No, it was bad for the dollar. It went bullish at that point. So that was July 6th. Is there any circumstance that we can see PPI and May, April? Yeah, May 11, we had a negative news. So we looked at May 11, pretty much same timing, so nothing much, right? So not really giving any huge amount of move. This is 11:30. So all PPI did was, well, pretty much go back down. So not expecting a huge impact with PPI, 51 pip. But as we look at, now let's come into today's day, right? Okay. So what we want to look for is, we know that I called this out. We're going into a divergence right now. We're forming that divergence right there. Looking at 1 hour, 1 hour also within the same process, and not just 1 hour, 4 hour is also potentially going to go into that same process. Now, we went up, clearing out all imbalances within the segment, which is fantastic. Now, price pretty much for the past couple of days not necessarily taken any dips, right? Not dropping down any like creating a no proper bottom wick. It's just a massive push up, right? So look at this. So no proper bottom wick, price just pushing up. Now the doji right before that, the next one just pushing further up, right? The entire daily flipping. This was news, I believe. This is Friday. No, this is Monday. So we didn't have anything on Monday. So Monday we pretty much just moved up. Okay, creating support, allowing price to break to close right at that level of resistance with that kind of a momentum coming in. That momentum continued up. Now, once that momentum continued up, price just kept going up, which without a bottom wick. So let's mark off. I'm not going to put in too many lines today. Let's mark off the dojis we're looking at, right? This is 1, and we are within that range right there. And this here, right? So the rejection range is going to be right this here. So if price comes back up into this range again, we don't necessarily have any imbalances here. We have imbalances right over here. So we can now expect, since price is closed within this region, we can expect price to just make a small dip. Now, do we have to go all the way there? Still not necessarily. Until we close above 1968 and take support, there is lesser likelihood of us jumping back up to the 2000s yet. We might pretty much just range within this area for the next couple of days, right? Today, taking a dip. If we find more momentum, we could pretty much jump up once again. So with that, we have a range on the 4-hour. Now this is the expected area of rejection at this point in time. If I go back into the daily and we look at what kind of a situation we are in. Now, since we've come back into this range, let's mark that range right here. Let me do this. Right. And so we were kind of stuck within this range for a substantial amount of time. Price eventually making its move towards the downside. Now, price coming back into that range, we can expect price to take support now at this level here, 1940, and something of this sort, right? And then a possible push down is what I would expect. But now let's see if there is this thing here, right? Really good level of resistance right there. Now, does gold still have the momentum of pushing all the way up? Not necessarily, right? So first we need it to take support and then break off this area. A huge amount of rejection. Look at the left hand side. This is not the easiest area for price to jump up. Price has faced multiple rejections within this area. But once price comes back up, takes support in this range, we can expect that to break above and then come back down. Now, ideally, we could even take support like this and then try to challenge the highs, right? Dollar is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. All we did on the drop down was a sentiment-based drop. So that sentiment-based drop, is that going to continue? Are the sentiments towards the dollar going to come back up, or is it fear that's driving the price up right now? What is the main fear that is driving the price up? Is increasing interest rates. So if interest rates are increased, business perspective, that is a huge problem for operating businesses, for banks. They think that it's going to be the thing they pretty much think it's going to be more difficult for banks to survive with that kind of a situation happening. So, well, all we can do is kind of wait, right? Now, we broke below trend line, breaking back above. Now we can probably expect a retest of the trend line and then continue up. So we just have to wait and see, right? And if that retest is coming out today, look at that, right? It just has to come back up and take support at this daily wick here, and then we can continue further up. Now, there's another thing to look at within the situation. What is that situation? Right here. So we know that we've entered back into this range, right? This range here. Left hand side, if you look at historical, we are rejecting at a historical high. Now, if you look at that, we pretty much want to see price take support along this line here, right? On the weekly. Take support and then jump back up. Now, are we going to go back all the way up to 2000 this week? Next couple days, the chances are slim, right? But what can we see in the coming week that can give it to us, right? We're up Wednesday for the week. So now look at this. There is a doji right there on the weekly where we've marked out a daily doji. So let's take in the weekly one right here. No, actually, let's be. What I will do is I'll leave a line there. Right? Okay. Now, current weekly coming in closer to that doji right there. Good area of rejection. Price has rejected with power generated from this area here all the way down. Price jumping back up, making a similar move up on the weekly so far. Now, is it going to hold this area or is it going to break above, take support, and then challenge the highs? That's going to be the next question. So if we look at the overall move so far, price has jumped up. We are expecting it to hopefully take support within this range here. Next weekly does have a range of coming back down if it's going to try and clear off the imbalance, which means price jumps down first and then jumps back up, or price jumps up first and then jumps back down. This is what we could see through the next week. So we have multiple spots that we will look at, but first as we look at the weekly and we look at the daily and we look at the monthly, so we are still within the weekly range. The power of that doji right there, rejected. Price has rejected when coming up from that area. Same thing here again. Price broke below, tried to create support, went back up, failed. If we fail again, we can see a deeper push. That comes in coordination to our expectation of price trying to drive further out, right? Now, we haven't even approached a trend line at the bottom, right? So the expectation that price is just going to drive and challenge the highs and the trend line that it rejected from right now doesn't make sense. If price goes up, we know for sure that there's a higher chance price is not going to be able to break further above. So we're going to see rejections coming back up into this range for price to continue further up and down. So we have certain amount of confirmations that that's what price is trying to do. So all we have to do is just wait and see what market ends up doing, right? So coming back into monthly, what do we see? Monthly is giving us kind of a similar story. Monthly area of rejection, price has just tapped into it. Now, monthly range, right? You're still within that monthly range. So now if you look at the monthly, we have rejected at the trend line at the monthly level, right? It's not the daily, not the weekly, the monthly area. So the expectation that we're going all the way up right now is difficult, right? To build that power right here. Now, why not? We can definitely build a power. We have a lot of consolidation within that space. but we broke below and closed below into this range here. So there's a higher chance for us to just drop further down, not necessarily break below right now, but take support and challenge the highs from there, because this is going to be a better push up. We've barely tapped in and pushed back up, right? So that is the expectation that we see based on the monthly. Coming back into the daily. What just happened there? Okay. Now, current daily is trying to make a push towards the upside. So the more we look at it, 4 hour is creating an area of rejection and giving us a signal of a sell. It's just a retest now. We need volume to kind of give us that retest, finish off that retest, possibly giving us a top wick at this level and then coming back down. If we don't get that top wick, which is up until this area, if we don't mitigate this, then we're probably going to come back up. Possibly later today or tomorrow. We're going to come back up. Okay, so just with that, right now my expectation would be to get into sells at this rejection point. I'm already in some sells here, but I would be adding certain positions because my stop loss is still higher, and this is going to be a very high stop loss. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this top wick, I'm going to use that. And then this is going to be where I would want to close a bunch of my trades and only keep 30% or less running with the expectation that price would drive further down. Right now, price can find support in a lot of places, right? So if I was to consider this here, that is still possible. So if I go back into the daily now, let's see how far we can do. Why not, right? Good area of support now. So if we exit out of this range, that is. If we don't, we have a good support right there. And then the next support is all the way down here. Right all the way down here. So we have a long way going down, but we do have a bunch of rejection areas. So a lot of these could end up being as temporarily acting support. So like double rejection right there, 3 rejections at that point. So we have 3 touch points right there. Left hand side, we have another bottom wick, bunch of wicks right there. So that looks like a decent support as well. So another area. So now let's look at if price starts dropping, the first spot you want to look for is this area here, then this, and then this, right? So what I'm going to look at is I'm going to try and hold as much as I can, as long as I can. And it's still, you have to collect profits along the way. If you're not, then you're going to miss out on the good opportunities, right? So that's going to be one of my take profits, because looking at the left hand side, we have multiple rejection within that spot. It's the power of the doji right there. So price rejecting within that doji's range. This is where I would expect price to kind of maybe find support on the lower time frames a little bit before it continues its way down. So this is going to be my first area where I would be looking for my take profit. I will be collecting take profits across both of these areas here, the ones marked with the red boxes. So say here and here. Okay. So the trade that I'm putting in here, I'm going to collect some here, so I'm mitigating certain risk and collecting some pips along the way. Now, further down, we already have enough spots to look at. Right there. So this won't be my stop. Instead, And let's lock this. Okay. Now, and then we have these two. Okay. So we have a bunch of take profits that we can get. Sean is asking, is gold going up? Should I buy? No, wait, my friend. What we're trying to do is analyze and understand what is a good buying opportunity and what is not. Right now, we are possibly looking at sells for today, and we may not even come down all the way here. Our first expectation is price coming down into this range here, possibly finding support at this level, and then we look for the next break and then the next break, right? So this is on the daily, right? No, this was the weekly. Was this the weekly doji? No, that's the 1 week. Yeah. Going back into daily. So that is the weekly doji's bottom wick, and we have a daily doji right within that doji right there. So, and this is the top part, the top body of that doji. So that is the range we could look for right now. Eventually, looking at the 4-hour, we have that area of rejection right there. So this could just be a wick and drop, right? So let's do that. 46 pip stop loss should be fine. So we've come down to understand what trade we're going to take pretty fast today. We've already looked at that trade. Now we have an understanding of, or the expectation that this is what we will possibly see, right? This is what we have the possibility of seeing, but not necessarily price has to do that. We want to see if price, we're going to go step by step. We're going to see if price breaks above, takes support, then we look for further buys. We'll obviously look for buys at the bottom, but it's going to be risky, right? We are in a range where price can just keep going up and down. So let's see what the market presents, right? So let's see what we can capture here. So this is going to be on gold, right? That's the expectation of gold. We've already started facing some amount of pressure. Let's go into the 1 hour and let's see what's happening for now. Now, if we are looking for buys, right? If you want to look for buys, what are going to be good buys at this point in time? Mm, 35 pips. Why not, right? 51 pips. Looking at daily, I would be looking at this area here, 4 hours. Right, on the daily, we have a decent area of support at that point. We do have imbalance all the way down there. Now, is that imbalance going to be filled today? Maybe. So I won't actually look for buys. I'm going to stay focused on the sells. We'll look for buys maybe during New York, right? I'll be here. I'll probably jump on chat and we can talk into how this trade is going to end up running, okay? So, okay. Now all we got to do is just wait. We are, and say if price is not tapping in and you haven't entered into our sells from yesterday, if you haven't entered these cells, just don't hurry and enter sell right now. I'm currently expecting price to first go back up into this trend line area. We want to see that top wick and then drop down. So what you can do is you can, on the 1 hour, let's look at 4 hours. So what you want to do is probably you can take stops below this area here, right? So if you haven't taken a trade, what you can do is you can, because once price breaks below this area, below 1955, 1956 area, we will continue further down. Okay, so this is what you could do. Just make sure you give a couple pips down so that it's, it just doesn't go a little bit down and then continue up. It will eventually come down, but you don't want to get stuck into that trade. And then your stop loss is going to be a little bit higher. 46, let's make it 45 pips. And a similar trade, right? This is what you would be looking for. Okay. So that is the current expectation. It seems that we are struggling to continue further up. Asian should set in motion a drop, but that's not necessarily going to, like, we can't just consider that price is just going to start melting all the way down. Price still has areas that it can take support. So if you look at on the 4 hour, we can still come back down here, take support, and then jump back up, right? And so all we can do is wait for market to do its thing. Now DXY, let's look at the situation on DXY. DXY bullish weekly is all the way down here. We have broken through another possible trend line right there. Let me see this here, right? This was, if I remove this, we have a perfect trend line right there. 1, 2, 3, 4 touch points at that trend line. Price broke below, has not yet gone up for a retest. So when will price go back up? Well, look at this here. This is where price can go back up. Now, why is that? That's a good weekly area of support. So price can, it's going to be the range we'd be looking at. We can expect price to dip down and then push up. But for today, that's for the weekly, right? Let's look at daily. So now look at the DXY. DXY just kept dropping, bunch of imbalances within its movement. And if you look at that on the left-hand side, price has created an imbalance in a couple of days. It mitigates that imbalance, goes back up. If there's any imbalance it sees, it's generally, you're not going to see imbalances stay on for a huge amount of duration on DXY. So this push up might happen quite soon, right? So if you look at daily, as it's dropping, now it's going sideways. You'll see it probably making dips as it slowly continues up. You'll see that something of this sort starting to form soon. So where's, how can I mark this? Right here. Something of this sort within this range where it would go all the way up. Okay, that means gold is not too far away from going back up. We could pretty much make this drop today also, right? We could also reverse for a little bit and then come back down. So DXY right now, that is the expectation, is we might go a little bit up, adjust, and then keep continuing down. If you look at the weekly, has made a massive dip. At the monthly is at the 50%, closer to the 50% line. So this is how I use RSI, 50% line. Okay, price breaks below, retests, and continues to drop, or price takes support at where it is right now, and then starts pushing up. Monthly is currently at that 50% line. So yes. Again, look at that. This area is also the monthly area of support, weekly area of support, and a good daily area of support. So this is a very, very strong support. So if you're expecting that it's just going to start and continue melt, there's nothing in these markets that just keeps melting, right? So gold has started to flip. So if you haven't entered any trades, safest entry would be this for you, because you might just end up getting trapped. You can take this entry as well. We're still at that level, so that's at your own risk. Right now, I would recommend taking this if you haven't entered. If price comes back down and reverses, well, so far, if I look at the 1 hour, we try to go for a retest, but we failed, and we're coming back down. And on the 1 hour, this is an area of support, so we can still push back up. And that's what I'm saying. If you haven't entered this trade, you can look at this one. Right, so let's just adjust this a little bit down so that we are right below that. There we go. Okay. You could let price break below and then take the entry as well. So I'm not in this trade. Okay, this is for those that haven't entered. These are the two trades that I'm looking at. I'm already in this trade. I'm looking at this entry here. AUD coming up to that 50% line. I would expect it to see some amount of rejection at that level right there. One week could go further up. However, price has rejected around that area multiple times. Bodies and bodies, we're right there. Strong area of resistance on the weekly. On the daily, you do still have a scope of going all the way up, filling out these imbalances here, reaching that doji right there, which is also a strong area of resistance on the daily. And then we could look for a possible push down. But at the same time, Why do this? See? This here, we pretty much mitigate all possible gaps and then continue further down. So AUDs still has a possible push up. Look at that. Went back to the bullish side. So look at this. Another USD pair that's giving a divergence. So we crossed this yellow line, price can continue to drop. And so if we are looking for buy opportunities, this is the first area that you can start looking for buys. Good area of support on the 4-hour. And 1 hour saying that we could, based on imbalance, we could drop further down. But this is where I'm expecting it to go further up too. Right? Same thing in New York. We'll look at it. What would be the best level to buy? Looking at daily. This looks like the best area of support right now, doesn't it? Right there. If price allows. 24 pips. All the way up. And these would be the take profits that I would take. Now we don't have to come all the way down today, okay? Since we are expecting a push further up, you could possibly see that rejection there and then a drop down. So you gotta wait. For hours currently. So this is not necessarily a sell signal. Could be. So let me look at my MT5. Yeah, I may not consider it necessarily, and I would consider this as a possible support because we broke above that. There's a top wick above it, so the retest has not necessarily stood out. It's kind of failed. So AUD could still drive further up. Dollar is pushing down. AUD is pushing up. Yeah, so let's see what AUD does. What the heck happened? So what I would expect here is, if you're trying to take a sell similar to gold, $18 pips all the way down. This would be my expectation. Okay. For the buys, let's look at the alternative situation for buys reversing right here. So if you're watching the market at that given time, only then take this trade, okay? This one. This one is where you can set pendings, but don't risk with pendings right now. Just sells is fine on pending, but for these, look for evidences, okay? So these are the trades I would be looking at. And let's post this into Discord. AUDUSD. Sell and buy opportunity. And sells in gold. Okay. So we have AUDUSD. Let's look at, let's remove everything here. Let's make it simple. Go back to monthly. Monthly, we do have a range of going further up, but we've rejected right at the monthly area of previous monthly area of support. So has bodies right there. So this is a good area of rejection. Looking at the weekly. Weekly still has a possibility of a drive further up. But also a good doji right there. So good area of rejection at this level here. So let's mark this up. And now let's look at 1 day. So daily, ideally, this is a good area of rejection. Another doji within that spot there. Okay. Doji coming in, price going bearish. Okay. Yeah, currently looking at the daily. GU will also see a decent amount of rejection. So GU is going probably for a week's worth of drop. So weekly area of rejection. So I would expect it to drive a little bit above right there. Would mitigate all daily areas off. All daily gaps will be gone, or imbalances will be gone. 4 hour also looks like the perfect area. There we go. Nope. So on GU, we do have a further scope of going a little bit further up. Let's make sure that we have the good spot to put the stops at. Let's consider this here. Sorry for the back and forth. I want to make sure that I have the entry marked up quite well. Actually, enter right below that there. $27. Oh, this is too big. But yeah, on GU, pretty much. Could be risking much more. And let's look at the daily. Yeah, this would be my expectation. So I want to make sure that there are there any would you look at that? 1, 2, 3 touch points already, and we are approaching, look at that, right at our entry. If that's not a good analysis, I don't know what is. Right? So there we go. GU, swing trade. Can you tell me your expected take profit? And let me post this in GU. Numbers, GU, sells, swing. Okay. Let's see if it works out, right? This is a long term. And by long term, I mean this trend line is on the weekly, on the daily. Let's see what's the situation on the monthly. Well, kind of also on the monthly. So this is a very, very strong trend line. Unless we have amazing, very, very strong news, it's not going to be an easy breakup. right? So yeah, I'm gonna wait for this push here. This is also kind of in line with gold, right? We're expecting a little bit of further push up before a massive push down. So this kind of falls in line with it. So GBP is expected to get weaker. AUD still has a scope of a further push up, but we'll see. We could pretty much reject that level as well. So we'll see what our price has to do, it'll do, right? Somebody was asking me about take profits. So let me, I didn't mark any here, right? So it's on gold, right? So let me collect some here on this specific trade. Even on these trades, collect some here. Let's collect a few here. So on the 4 hour. And good amount of rejection there. So let's take this here. Bottom wick. Few bodies, okay. Since we are back into this range here, we're going to collect more TPs than we generally do. Okay. So and this one here. And instead of saying TP1, TP2, I'm just going to put in TP. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Okay, there we go. So a bunch of take profits. There you go. Okay. So now I've tried to beautify this as much as I can. With the lines, I cannot, without the lines, I cannot give you guys take profits. And I don't want to use that trend line thing to set up each of these. That's very time consuming. You know what? They should have had something in the system to add these TPs in, so they're like the trade has markers on it kind of thing. I think that would have been really, really fantastic. Can we do a feature request? I would love to give it to them. Like I would love to send that. Because for every swing trader, they collect a lot of TPs along the way. There are a few that will be collecting just one take profit. They'll be probably running entire 50 lots all the way down and then manually closing certain lots. So I don't like doing that. I don't like playing with my psychology. I'd rather take a stop loss than manually close certain positions. So there we go. We have GU, long-term sales coming in, AU. Let's see how further up we can go. AU can like Looking at today's daily, we can pretty much dip today, right? Dip down. But we still have a long way to go. So AU still has a little bit of time. UJ, we just keep dropping, right? Let me clear this entire thing. Let's look at UJ. So if you look at UJ, on the daily, this bottom wick is on these bodies here. This top wick has bodies above it. So even on UJ, we can pretty much drop a little bit further down. So we do have a little bit of a range. This is where we have taken support so far. But if you look at this area here, we've broken below. And we've closed below. So could be a possible retest of that support and then a possible push down. Right, so UJ, we are going to try this. Now, how far up can be expected? Well, we're going to test this, but yeah, let's see. We know that JPY is weak, so this could be the area where price can start reversing back up. So it has right now 92 pip. We're going to adjust that. Well, JPY pairs can have higher stop generally. So I'm going to reduce it down. 64 here. I cannot do better than 55 right now here. Just because of this thing here, right? So yeah, this is what I'm gonna look at UJ. Copy image, put this in UJ. Possible reversal on UJ. UJ can drop further a little bit down, right? So that's where we're expecting it to drop further down to. Being hasty and looking at UJ today, but let's see if this works out or not. I don't expect the entire swing to be working out. I do expect it to face a little amount of rejection somewhere in this range here, but we'll look at it. So say along this line here. This is where I would expect to look for rejections. So I will take an entry on UJ if, okay, what just happened? Okay. No. So yeah, I think that's about it. Look at that. Taking support. So this is why when I mentioned you don't need to enter this trade. If you haven't entered this trade, look for this. See? Now you can call it a trap or whatever. It's not, I wouldn't consider it as a trap. I'm considering it as price's expectation of trying to jump up. So let me make sure that I've aligned this on the 4-hour. And this is going to be the next spot I would be looking at. Because that is kind of in line with the expectation of price trying to jump up into and closer to the 1980s 2000 range. We'll see. Right now I still expect this to work out. So let's pull that up here. There we go. By that we were quite close to this trend line here. Let's see, we could see a little bit of a push and then drop. Trying to make that push up now. See if it can build the momentum to do that. Doesn't need a huge amount of momentum, just a little bit of a push to break above. We've closed in that range, taken support, so we should be able to, so if you look at that here, we've taken support of this structure on the 4-hour, so we should be able to push further up. All we can do is wait for market to do its thing. Okay.